May I please call upon stage our panelists for the day, Jessica Jensen, Chief Marketing and Strategy Officer, LinkedIn. Madan Padaki, co-founder, Global Alliance for Mass Entrepreneurship. Thank you. Hello. Right next to you. Saurav Goyal, Senior Vice President, Driver and Delivery Product and Operations, Swiggy. Vidya Vasudevan, Head, Zoho Community. And our moderator for the session, Ruchi Anand, Senior Director, Talent and Learning Solutions, LinkedIn. Thank you. Over to you, Ruchi.
Thank you so much. Good morning. Well, I want to tell you a story about someone you may not know, but someone you may instantly recognize. Her name is Sujata. She grew up in a tiny village called Nanded, the kind where people put their heads down and work and have very small, they're taught to just dream small, right? By 18, she left her hometown because she was tired of the same work, the limited opportunities, the same comments. And she left for Mumbai in a bus with just a bag of few clothes and with a lot of courage when you have nothing left to lose. She came into Mumbai and stayed in a slum in Andheri, in a suburb in Mumbai, and started working as a house help. Just putting her head down, working, finding her way to kind of just sustain herself. But she also had one hidden talent, which her employer recognized, which was she made really good farsan, which is actually a savory and a mixture. I know backstage we were talking a lot about idlis. I'll tell you more about that as well. But she had that hidden talent, which was recognized by her employer, and her employer nudged her that, why don't you do such a good job, Sujata, why don't we sell some of this, why don't you make some more of it? But she laughed it out thinking that it's impossible. But then a lot more nudges, and a few weeks later in a society building, on one table she sold a few packets, they were all gone. By next week she did double of that, and by the next month she needed more help. And cut to many years later, she now runs a tiny shop, and in fact she has, so no marketing, no branding, but just a simple brand, which is now called Sujata Snacks, right in that little suburb. She employs 8 more girls like her, 8 more women now, who were girls who left villages just like her. But this story, like I said, is something that is not unique, is something that we all have come across in some way or form. What makes me actually talk about Sujata and the many Sujatas that we have around, in and around us, is because she is who Bharat and India actually is and what they represent. We talk about almost 75 million small and medium businesses, 30% of our GDP, 110 million jobs. But the truth behind those numbers are millions of Sujatas trying to build a life that finally feels like their own. And so the real question for all of us, and all of us as people who work in communities, in skills, in entrepreneurship and in enterprises, is how do we make sure that growth reaches the people who really need it the most? How do we make sure India's future is built not around Sujata, but with her, right? So to explore that, I'm joined today by an incredible panel, leaders who represent entrepreneurship, technology, community, and innovation. Together, we will unpack how SMBs can truly drive India's future and how people like Sujata can serve not just as participants in our economy, but truly as its very architects. So let's start with you, Madan. In fact, some incredible work that Game has been doing. And you've been a true champion of entrepreneurship at the grassroots. And through Game, you've helped and catalyzed thousands of small business journeys. And I know you have so many amazing, inspiring stories like Sujata's. Why do you believe SMBs are uniquely positioned to unlock this inclusive growth and job creation for India's next phase of development?
Thank you. Namaskara, and lovely to be here. Thanks, Ruchi, for putting us all together into the Charcha team. In fact, as you were just narrating Sujata's story, I was looking at the title and saying maybe we should take off the word driving, because SMBs are India's future.
Are India's future.
Right? And of course, how do we leverage SMBs to drive the future in a much better way is the thought that came to my mind. The challenge that we see in the country today that you mentioned, 75 million odd MSMEs registered, and there are tons of unregistered small businesses as well, is that the Sujatas of the world are an outlier, right? 97% of the MSMEs employ less than 3 people. So our challenge is we have a massive bottom of the pyramid, which is not even MSME. Maybe you can call them as nano, micro, or mini enterprises, right? And the thought that came to us when we started Game 6 years ago, and I've been in this space now for about 10 years, is that job creation has to happen in every nook and corner of the country, not just in the Delhis and the Bangalores and the Mumbais of the world. Every district has the potential. Each of the district itself has the potential to be a $10 billion economy in the next 4 or 5 years, which is the size of 6 Bhutans, right? But we have to look at job creation at the local level. It's only the small businesses that can create those jobs at that level. So from a job creation perspective, from an equitable economic growth, which is required as we power ourselves to a 30, 40, whatever trillion dollar economy, if we take our eyes off the ball of enabling small businesses as growth engines and as job creators, and to create that widespread entrepreneurship, which is what we call as mass entrepreneurship, inspired by the Nobel laureate Edmund Phelps' mass flourishing concept, I think we are staring at a time bomb, right? So the question really, and I love the way you frame it, is that it is, many times I hate the word beneficiary, especially when it is also applied to an entrepreneur, to an SMB, because if we continue to treat them as beneficiaries, the nudges and the behaviors that we will do is that of a beneficiary, right? How do we co-create the future with them where they are enabled, empowered to grow, and how do we remove obstacles in the path of growth is a question that we should be asking, and we are asking. And there are lots of stories like Sujata that will give us the answer, right? How did she go from coming in on a bus or whatever into generating 8-10 employment for 8-10 people and growing that brand? There are lots of learnings from that. I think as an ecosystem, and this is a great room to be in, to say, what is the role that Samaj Sarkar Bazaar, that each of us can play to enable journeys of entrepreneurs at every level to grow their own business and to become job creators and to contribute to economic growth at the district level? I think that's the framing that we at Game are working on.
Absolutely. Thank you, Madan. And I really love the point that you put across, that it's not about calling them as beneficiaries, because that's when ownership also comes in, exactly, and accountability. And we kind of look at them as, we call them, like they say, SMB is also another word for small but mighty.
Beautiful, yeah.
Right?
Wonderfully said.
I'll take that.
All right, Vidya, so going over to you, in fact, I was telling Vidya, they've been doing phenomenal work at Zoho by building Zoho community. And you've actually been at the front row to see transformation, through these communities' work that you've been doing. And you've seen SMBs embrace digital tools and even now AI, so often without massive resources, right? So what trends are you seeing that how small businesses are using technology? And also would love your perspective on how the entire power of community is, you're unlocking so much with that.
Thank you, Ruchi, for, it's great to share stage with some very wonderful people here. I am a champion of community, and I definitely love opportunities to talk about it. So today, I engaged quite a lot with a lot of SMBs across different pockets in India, particularly Ghaziabad, down south, in Salem, Tirupur. They're very small towns with a lot of business hubs, small business hubs. And it is very heartening to see that there is a certain amount of digital maturity today. Okay, and one definite shift or trend I personally have been closely watching and excited about is how they are moving away from being very transaction-centric to becoming more community-anchored organizations. When I say that, I am talking about how if they have needs, particularly in the context of technology, gone are the days when they will write to support. They continue to do it if they need immediate answers, But now they are at a place where they love to co-create. For example, we have a customer in Kanpur, a manufacturing company, a business, who through community engagements came to know about how a Salem entrepreneur from the textile manufacturing sector, she has automated her entire shop floor using Zoho's low-code platform called Zoho Creator, So that solution, whatever she has built, this entrepreneur from Salem in South India has built, might not readily work as is or out of the box for this Kanpur customer, but it provides him a framework to customize, to go from there. Then he went about working with some of our Zoho partners, other experts in the ecosystem, and they are in the co-creation mode. So basically, community becomes some kind of an R&D lab, okay? And there is composability in the sense now. Again, I am really excited about the kind of, I was, earlier in the day, Madan and I were talking, and I was asking him about his initiatives and how the digital maturity is in villages, and it is heartening to hear that there is validation for this, So this composability in the sense, the SMBs are not okay with any patchwork in technology, okay? So there are two ways they go about with. One, they seek out integrated solutions like this Zoho One platform that we have, or they already are using some tech stack from some other vendor, and they are looking for some other pieces from vendors like us, and they understand that today in the tech world, the tech stacks have to be interoperable. Without that, it can be Zoho, it can be LinkedIn, it can be any tech vendor, we will become irrelevant. So we have to be interoperable, and they know that, and they call the shots. They expect us to be interoperable with any other vendors. So for example, in our own application like Begin, it is a small CRM, an agile CRM. We integrate with QuickBooks. It integrates with Shopify, with Stripe, other payment gateways, while providing native integration with our own applications. So they have the choice, they make the choice, and what enables them, powers them to make those decisions is the power of community, being in a collective space where they don't make the decisions themselves, but they seek out their peers and want to understand how they solve something else, okay? And also a single source of truth, okay? So they don't want to look at multiple places to seek out an answer. So, if it can be a support function, it can be a sales function, a marketing function, everything has to align. They have to, each department cannot look at siloed frameworks, siloed modules, and make independent decisions. One thing leads on to the other, and there has to be inter-department handshakes. So they all look at this kind of a single source of truth. It can happen through integrated one vendor tech stack, or it can be multiple tech stacks. So,
amazing. Vidya, what I'm taking away from this is the power of community is also, how communities create relatable role models.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Like
Absolutely.
if I can, as an SMB, see, even if I'm far off, like you said, in Ghaziabad, and I see someone in Salem doing this, and if they can lift their business, using particular tech stack, or even like, of course, power of integrations, but this is amazing to hear. Thank you, Vidya. Jessica, let me come to you. I mean, we've been, of course, these are great examples of what we're hearing from the ground. From your perspective, from a global vantage point, how do you see, especially in India, SMBs unlocking growth as well as innovation that's happening, especially as you zoom out and see from a global lens?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it is such a delight to be in India and with all of you. And I've been here before, and every time I come here, my mind is just electrified by the entrepreneurial zest of this economy. I mean, no surprise to anybody here, small businesses power macro economies all over the world, but India, I think, is one of the leaders. Small businesses contribute 30% of GDP here and employ people, I think, importantly, in building economies in tier 2 and tier 3 cities. For LinkedIn, India is our second largest market. So we have 163 million people on the platform here, and it is an honor and a delight to get to support small business growth here. I think when I think about my home country and other countries, there are many, many lessons for us to take from small business growth and spirit here.
And the one word that is your new favorite.
My new favorite word is jugaad. I am going to bottle this up and take this back and put it into the water in the United States.
Made it to the dictionary.
Yeah, it's amazing. Working around rocks and boulders to find solutions. I think that is such a marvelous expression. And I think that's why, Indian small businesses are embracing AI at a much higher rate than small businesses in other countries. Over 85, 90% of small businesses here using AI for hiring, for sales development. All of the platforms that you rattled off that are so critical to small business growth. And obviously we're at LinkedIn, we're a part of that river. But jugaad is a word that the world should embrace. And I will try to, I will be shouting it from the LinkedIn rooftop.
Yeah.
Wonderful. So on that note, Saurav, let's come to you. For all of us here, we know that Swiggy's growth story is deeply intertwined with India's SMB ecosystem. I think you've been able to, if I'm not wrong, get me right on the numbers, but over 500,000 delivery. 700,000. So maybe when I last checked, it's really growing by the minute. So tell us more in terms of, how do SMBs, how are you seeing them drive innovation and employment, especially as you go into, the smaller cities and towns?
Before I go to SMB and SMBs help in tier 2 and tier 3, one thing which I've experienced in the last 5-6 years is, back in the days, SMBs were the suppliers of growth. Tier 2, tier 3 cities were the suppliers of growth. Actually, fast forward, both tier 2, tier 3 and SMBs are consumers of growth.
Very true.
Right?
Yeah,
so when we, and I'm going to speak, maybe I'm going to just jump. It's only a fitting coincidence that today is exactly a year Swiggy, my company, got publicly listed in India.
Oh, nice.
Now, for a company which got listed a year back, I don't think so we got listed on the back of 50,000 restaurant partners or 10 large cities. We wouldn't have gotten the response we got. We were present in about 800 cities, right? And there is power to it. And I'm going to tell you 2 small experiences I had. This goes back to about 5 years back. COVID was this time when COVID happened. We were that time delivering food to about 40 million people in a year across the country. 95% of them coming in tier 1 towns, top 8 towns. COVID happens, displacement of people. Most of Bangalore, Chennai, Hyderabad, Delhi, Calcutta started giving up people. Who started receiving these people? Absolutely small towns. Young kids went back to their parents. They realized they love their parent, but not their eating habit. Kids went back to small towns, they still wanted to eat a burger and a pizza.
Yeah.
Right? Fast forward in the last 2 to 3 years, the amount of restaurants I've seen come up in small towns. I was in Vadodara last year, and you'll be shocked, I had one of the best sushis in my life. Now, could Vadodara think of having a sushi restaurant 6 years back? Right? So, this change management, when people were displaced at such large quantity, it got birthed to a demand, a consumption. And there was no way large companies or MNCs would have fulfilled that. In our annual operating plan, I wasn't even talking about Izol any day. In fact, sorry to say, but if you come back to my company, 9 out of 10 people will put Izol in the wrong place in the map. Right? We wouldn't even know where it is. Right? That's one story. As COVID continued, we launched a product called Instamart, which is our online grocery business. Right? I don't know how much of you know, grocery Instamart business is today in about 130 cities in India. When we started doing it, people were telling us this business is only for the top 10 cities. People don't pay money for it beyond top 11, 12, 13, 14 cities. we were shocked that in cities like Bhubaneswar, Guwahati, we were reaching a scale in 3 months what was taking us 9 months in Bangalore. It killed all our plans of how many stores we wanted, right? The amount of consumption just shattered us. So that's one part of the story. Now let's come to SMB, right? As you rightly pointed out, I am not in a camp which believes it will drive India's future. I think it is driving India's present. At least for us, a year from when we went public, I can tell you they play a super important role. Today, I have stories about a single mother who opened a pizza store in Rishikesh. It's a small town up north. She's made a house of her own. I can't tell you the emotional outcome when I meet her. It is not about that pizza joint anymore. It is about she now has a house. I have met retired families who pay for the higher education for their kids by running small restaurants. Now, how is all of this possible? You still need a dream. And the good news is there are platforms like us. I'm like, look at the two largest IPO when it happens, Zomato, us. We may be competing, but at the end, we today bring a platform where a dream backed by a skill can just lift off. And there's so many stories. I can go on and on and on with what I see when I travel, when I meet restaurants. When I meet restaurants, first 5 minutes is about they complain to me about what 5 things I do wrong. Right? And then the next 25 minutes, there's only tears in our eyes. I mean, most of us come from a small town. I grew up in Northeast, right? And challenges are no different. So first 5 minutes, I'm heckled. I know exactly now how my meetings on the ground goes. A 30-minute meeting, first 5-minute heckling. Next 25 minutes, I'm their son, I'm their brother, I'm their best friend. Because they see me in them. They see aspiration in themselves. Yeah. Right? On Instamart today, I'm sure a lot of you use Instamart or instant grocery or Blinkit. Today, your favorite FMCG brands are out there. Fresh produce is out there. Now, for you to receive a fresh produce at 8 o'clock in the morning, just think what happens in the background. I'm going to take you through it. For somebody to order fresh produce, which is fruits and vegetable at 6:30 in the morning in Bangalore, a lot is happening behind. And I'm only going to tell you what is happening. And if anybody of you not thinking SMB, tell me. A day prior, 6 o'clock in the morning, the farmer is out there to harvest. From that time, it goes in a very small truck to a nearby collection center. Somebody is QCing it. I've seen people take potatoes and pass it through a ring. If it goes through the ring, it's a good potato. If it doesn't go through the ring, it goes on the left-hand side. I don't know how many MNCs are wanting to do it. These are jugaad, what you said, the country cousin of R&D, which has found a way of make a ring and just put it inside, right? There's a factory running out there, right? Then it moves from there on a truck to our large distribution centers. Overnight, it gets sorted. It gets pushed to our dark stores, which is near to your house. And next day morning, our fleet is just bringing it to your home. So I think there's a flywheel effect we create. When platforms come along, we have all the tech capital, we have all the intent, we have all the information, but there's no way on earth on my balance sheet. I was to reach 600 cities. Today we have what? 350,000 restaurants. I wish I could even open 30,000 restaurants with my money. It was not possible. Right? So the leverage we get out of these entrepreneurs, SMBs, die-hard fan of saying we want to go and do something is immense. And that's why I said it's fitting that today is an anniversary.
Lovely.
And I feel they're already driving it. And I can't wait to see where they'll take us tomorrow.
That's amazing. And I must tell you this, that even if your meetings start with some complaints, it's a great sign. When customer complaints means that, it's a signal to say that you can woo me. If they are quiet, then that's a problem. So, and then talking about the way you've been able to create with the power of technology, that'll actually get me to my next question in terms of how do we use and how are we seeing organizations, especially small businesses, leverage AI to leapfrog. Jessica, I'd love to hear your perspective on this, more from a point of view on how do you see AI helping SMBs, unlock more growth
Yeah, well, I think we've made reference to a couple of things already. I mean, I think that, traditionally, there's been so much technology that small businesses have not been able to access And talent, frankly. I mean, if you need data scientists or, there's enterprise, large-scale business has had access to talent and technology traditionally in a way that has been an impediment to growth for small business, and I think AI is exploding that. I think the access and the utility of AI for small business to find the right talent, build customer bases, accept payments, analyze data, grow their brands and their presence is wildly exciting.
Absolutely. And Madan, I'd like you to kind of add your perspective. I don't know if you had to add something to what Saurav said, and would love to hear about, talking about AI, the initiative that you're really working on, which is Jan AI, so that AI is not just for the elite. Let's kind of hear more about that as well.
Yeah, and then as Saurav, as we were talking about it, I just got reminded, we work in thousands of villages across South. And in one of the villages between Mandya and Madur, in South Karnataka, there's a chowtry called Swiggy chowtry. I mean, that's what the locals call it as. That apparently that is the last pin code access to Swiggy orders. And whenever he's not hosting marriages, he hosts an evening where people from the villages come, converge and order on Swiggy. And they have food there, they have a good time, he plays music and they go back. Right? Look at the jugaad of using a technology like Swiggy to bring the community together. Maybe we should go sell Zoho products there. Right?
Every cousin of ours, I love that as well.
Absolutely.
Sponsored by LinkedIn.
Right? And we've I know, sponsored by LinkedIn. We've seen, I started out 10 years ago, and I'll come to the Jan AI, we run one of South India's largest last mile delivery networks. We have about 4,000 youth, and we deliver about 20 million packages per annum only into tier 3, tier 4. And almost 10 years ago, we started with 8 packets a day in Hosur. And today, that has exploded. So the consumption story that we're seeing and the appetite for technology, we've seen only exponentially grow. And that is the framework that we put for Jan AI. We said India does not need more of Gen AI, but what we need is AI for the masses, Jan, and therefore people. And we are now working to conceptualize what we are calling as India's first AI-ready villages. Right? What does it mean for a village to be ready to absorb AI? And we are trying to take that at multiple layers. One, at a community level, is there an appreciation of AI? Do people know what AI is, what they can do, and what it can do to them in terms of harm? How do you prevent from abuse? But more importantly, can there be specific use cases in the village that works for them? Now, how can it put 1,000 rupees more in the hands of a farmer? How can it help a women artisan get 10 orders more? How can it help a youth access better careers? Right? How can it help a school student learn math faster? The challenge is that, as you were also referring, the last 10 years I've seen technology is always trickled down, right? Why should it happen first in a Gurgaon before getting to a Gulbarga?
It's not linear anymore.
It's not linear anymore. And on the contrary, I see a far more readiness and enthusiasm to accept and adopt technology in places like that than in urban cities, right? So the enthusiasm and the hunger is there, and we need to co-create products for them. It's not a top-down approach where we push a bunch of products and say, hey, here is what you have. In fact, under the Jan AI initiative in January, we'll be deploying 50,000 students of VTU to visit 5,000 villages and to create 10 use cases in the village that make sense for the village. And that's their final year internship project, right? So I think if we can co-create solutions with the community, where they understand their pain points, we bring them talent, local youth and tools where they can then imagine what life they would want for themselves using tech. I think the power lies there, then a centralized approach to push technology. So hopefully by February, we will see villages having Gen AI cafes where youth will be creating agentic AIs for users within the community.
That's amazing. I love that. I just wanted to make sure people know. So if you go to opportunity.linkedin.com, we have free learning tools about AI,
Fantastic.
Entrepreneurship. So it's real. We have a very robust educational offering as well. So I just want to add that to.
Fantastic.
I mean, I think for community development, skills development, we're trying to contribute in that way.
Excellent. So that's the framing.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, yeah, Jan AI cafes and maybe Swiggy deliveries over there as well could be something. But talking
LinkedIn
about
Learning.
this, the angle on education and, Vidya, why don't you actually share a little more about Zoho schools and, how that's really kind of shaping and, again, creating that ripple effect across communities?
Yeah, so, Zoho Schools has been an initiative that has been live for nearly 2 decades now, where we hire school children as young as 12th graders, the kids who pass out of their 12th grades. We started out with hiring from remote villages, hard-pressed backgrounds. Now we have even main school students showing interest in joining the schools, so which again is indicative of how the education system itself needs a little rehaul in India, make it more application oriented. So what we do in Zoho schools is we run a school of design, we run a school of business management, and then for engineering, for programming. These students are trained in what is currently used, particularly the tech that we rely on for our own applications. They are trained, the faculty are from among the employees, besides having a dedicated faculty. Some of the experts from within the teams, somebody who is an expert in building AI models will go and talk to the students, teach them, sit with them, spend some time with them. We have our design school headed fully by one of our design experts. And when we say design, it is not just the digital designs. They do sculpting, they do phenomenal work. And all these students show so much energy, so much passion that you will want to, the one vision for Zoho is to have at least 40% or 50% of our workforce fully from Zoho schools. And this is a model that can be emulated by business of any scale, and that scale can be relative. Any small business can turn this into a movement. They can hire locally, they can teach these students, and this model is something that can be replicated without too many challenges. And when you do this locally, you are giving back to that local community. You are creating job opportunities there. You are creating education there. There is something these students start aspiring for. They know they can build and uplift their own, their own communities, their own villages, their own towns. And it is very sad to see how many families who were into agriculture have migrated. They've left, sold their lands, come back to the city because their children have come to the urban areas in search of livelihood. So now technology doesn't have to be built in Silicon Valley. It does not have to be built in Bengaluru. It doesn't have to be built in Hyderabad Tech City. It can be built, as you all know, in Tenkasi. It can be built in a small village somewhere in remote Jaipur. So today it is possible, and this is something worth emulating for any business of any size and scale.
Oh, absolutely. I think, the fact that you also said that how your own employees play a key role, yeah. I think that's what we're seeing, and more organizations actually focusing on that. Employees are really so purpose-driven. Even for us at LinkedIn, our coaches program is really run by all employees volunteering, and our social impact team that's here plays a key role in making sure that that's bridging the gap and, like we say, closing the network gap for people. And I think that's really a great example, very inspiring to hear. Let's move in terms of a few next set of questions really around what's the road ahead and what we can do. Saurav, I wanted to, and I know we had an interesting conversation earlier when you spoke about, if I talk about what's the single most critical enabler, whether it's policy, platforms, or partnerships that can help SMBs scale sustainably. And you had a very interesting take on the three. So let's hear it from you in terms of what, according to you, is more critical.
My analogy is, this is like people who follow cricket, right? Will the batsman win you the match? Will the bowler win you the match? Will the wicketkeeper win you the match, right? The easy answer is all three. But I have seen great matches where two of them have come together. They've overcome for the third party, right? Now, just to answer your question, I can give a very easy answer. Corporates love this answer. Is it has to be policy. And then I can be on the flight back to Bangalore. But I don't think so that is true. Having run operations, I feel it is the partnership in our context of people, which is far more important. Policy will follow, right? It is very easy for us to hide behind a curtain, look at policy and say, oh, policy wasn't there, so it didn't happen. And I have some examples to explain why I say this, right? I think if you look at the Indian government Indian government, they're doing enough they can to get electric vehicles on the ground. I'm like, what more? I mean, the only thing is left is for them to buy a vehicle and put it to my parking now, literally, right? There is enough positive motivation. I come from Bangalore, one of the highest road tax paying cities per car. My wife bought an electric car and it was like, she paid 2,000 rupees. And I pay 5% of the value of my car as road tax, for example. Right? So there is a lot of positive motivation government is trying to do in that space. There is also negative motivation government is trying to put by saying, listen, we won't let you have a nice vehicle, do commercial jobs. At least in Delhi, it's pretty obvious, right? So now, when I look at the government, I think it has done both. It has created a policy, it has put positive incentives, and it has put negative incentives. It's put both carrot as well as stick on the ground. Now you look around and there's none, right? And then we spent enough time saying, okay, we today run 700,000 driver partners on the street, and our adoption of electric vehicle is just 10%. The business case is right at the get-go. The cost per kilometer is far lower, yada, yada, yada. Everybody's benefits a win-win-win, right? Now, why is it not happening? And we spent some time meeting with everybody. We realized today there are these SMBs who are trying to become, drivers wouldn't go and buy their bikes. The cost of buying the bike is a lot, and speaking to drivers, they don't want to, you've seen how electric vehicles are which are used for food delivery. They feel they can't bring their girlfriend's wives on that bike in the evening, so they don't feel the need to buy that bike. Actually, that's the reality. Now, which means they have to lease it out. There are enough companies who want to lease it out to us. Now, when I go and speak to them, all of these are entrepreneurs, SMB. They go to an HDFC bank and they say, listen, I want to buy 100 vehicles and I'm going to lease it to driver partners of Swiggy. The bank says, okay, bring a salary slip, bring your credit score, yada, 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 bring a purchase order from Swiggy that they want to keep it. Now, and I'm looking at bank as a partner. The bank as a partner is giving a loan or capital like it is giving a loan for my personal vehicle. It's not going to work. Right? And we today are at loggerheads where we can call each other names and then we won't move ahead. And I think with that, my view is if platforms and partners were to come together, which means if people and partners were to come together and find a way out of it, we will get out of it very quickly. Yep. And then there will be a flywheel which will keep coming in, right? So, the difficult answer I have for everybody is I think policy is the last person who need to make a move. They will. And I think credit to how fast policies are moving. I think it's very difficult for policy to not move forward. It's very, very difficult. That's the easiest thing. Once we as society, we as platform, we as partners make the move, I feel they'll follow suit. So it's on us.
That's very true. So I think the role of partnerships is undeniable, and in terms of the steps that we need to take. Madan, your take on this, I think you'd like to add because...
Completely with Saurav. See, the point is that we've been talking, and I've been in the sector, so to speak, for several years. We keep talking about collaboration. There is intent. We talk about it. It feels good to talk about it in a room like this. The moment you step out, you get stuck in your own burrows, and we don't really do much about it. So the point is that it is not even organization level partnerships, it's people level partnerships, and then we can bring our organizations together, right? So it is the power of a committed group of individuals who are coming to solve a problem, and we bring our organizations to bear to make that happen. And having worked with the governments across several state centers, as to what Saurav was saying, there is intent, they are ready to dance, but I think it is the collective that has to work, right? So I would love to figure out at the end of this session, what is that one collaborative action that all of us can take back and come back and report back at the end of next year saying, hey, this is what we discussed here, here is what has worked, not worked. Because that will move the needle.
How many inches are we willing to give in that?
Exactly, right? It is.
We don't have to be 50-50.
Exactly. Yeah. So it is a collective mission that we are on. And I think that is what is, in my view, is the only thing that will move us further, right? the whole point about this adage which says that if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go further, go together. It is going together that will matter for India. And I don't think we're doing enough about it.
No, and thanks for calling out the clear call to action for everyone here in the room, for all of us, in terms of how do we make sure that what's our bit, contributing to, the partnerships piece or community piece. And, I know like every year Charcha has very clear takeaways, and I think we all walk away inspired with so much more action to take. Jessica, on that point, would you want to just share a few thoughts around, LinkedIn's role and, how LinkedIn can unlock more?
Well, I mean, I couldn't agree more with the go together, rising tide message. And obviously, we run a network where people find partners and customers and inspiring, experts and friends. And so I think our role to be a platform where people connect and share and grow together is utterly critical. I'll just remark on another couple of things that we're doing. I want to echo Vidya's point earlier about the demand for integration on the part of small businesses, and they deserve it, and we need to deliver it. If I've run a small business, you have 13 minutes a day to figure out technology partners and try to make things cobble together and work. So we're releasing a thing called the Premium Business Suite, which gives you a premium company page on LinkedIn, ad credits, sales credits, and hiring capabilities, all of which are infused with AI. So I like to call it a buffet of delicious dishes. On one platter for small businesses to help them grow. And I think when you think about pairing, Zoho and an offering like that from LinkedIn, and Swiggy and other things, like that network and that community of platform partnerships that make it easy and fast for small businesses to find money, find customers, and grow is critically important, and something it's a huge priority for us.
Thanks, Jessica. I absolutely agree. The power of integrations, especially with more and more AI models coming in, it's all going to be about how well integrated ecosystems are. Vidya, any closing thoughts you'd like to add in terms of, again, with drawing from your power of communities experience?
In the context of
yes, in terms of how do we unlock more, in terms of partnerships as well as using technology.
Yeah, so I think again, educating here when we are talking about AI, and everybody is talking about AI, particularly in the SMB segment, everybody has this FOMO around AI. They don't know, we have to get on this bus, but what do I do? Okay, so it is real, but I think we have to make it know, as technology vendors, as technology partners, we have to let the SMBs also understand that they can lose that FOMO and start looking at what is the pain point I want to solve for my business. Okay, so what is the power of automation? So in automation, when you're talking about automation, again, we are talking about multiple stacks working together, right? So they have to know to unlock the potential of all the capabilities the different technologies coming together provide. And say again, one thing that I always obsess about or watch for is when they don't understand that hallucination in AI is dangerous if it is not used in a controlled manner. The clear use cases for SMBs would be to use AI like an analyst or an agent. That I think will get us a lot further, than where we are today in the automation and the integrated tech suite stack stand. Okay, so creating that kind of awareness as collective tech communities, as collective tech vendors, creating that awareness together, providing platforms to talk about it, to engage about it, do sessions, and create spaces where people come and comfortably talk about their challenges. People who are reticent also should be able to derive value by just observing as quiet lurkers, So there should be space in the community to be lurkers and still learn when there is so much power that SMBs can tap into.
Brilliant. I'm walking away really inspired with all these stories. And I think few things that have stayed with me, of course, the power of communities, relatable role models, power of integrations. But more importantly, like sort of even you called out, it's not about SMBs driving India's future, but really the present. And on our path towards Viksit Bharat, we need to make sure Sujatas of the world are truly architects, and we play that role. We have our accountability and commitment as part of building and strengthening those communities and partnerships. Thank you so much, and thank you for your wisdom, words of insight, and thank you everyone. Thank you.